The United States makes up only 5% of the world's total population, while accounting for 25% of the world's total prison population. How does this happen? It can be attributed to multiple things, such as racial bias within the criminal justice system. However, experts say that it is a result of a bipartisan effort that began in the 1980s known as the War on Drugs. This resulted in exponentially increasing incarceration rates, specifically impacting people dealing with drug use, poverty, and mental illness. With rising incarceration rates comes the demand for more prison space, thus more privatized prisons being built. Journalist Amanda Atwell says that when arresting and imprisoning people become profitable enterprises, high incarceration rates become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Private prisons are composed of shareholders and stakeholders whose main interest is to maintain/increase incarceration rates to generate income. Furthermore, private prisons have occupancy quotas that must be met, and in most states this requires them to be 90 to 100% full. With increasing imprisonment rates, privatized prison expansion, and the profit that both bring in, the government is prioritizing the funding of prisons over other social institutions. This has massive impacts on society that go unnoticed by many. In an article written by scholar Karen Morin, she brings to light the fact that 75% of state inmates and 80% of federal inmates are in jail for nonviolent crimes, most of these being economic crimes, such as not paying taxes. Many people arrested for economic crimes stay in jail for a long period of time while they await trial because they can't afford bail. This is detrimental because nonviolent offenders are exposed to toxic and violent prison environments. Oftentimes, they're heavily influenced by the violence that surrounds them, this making them more likely to end up in jail again. It is a vicious cycle. Those who are nonviolent offenders and were not arrested for economic crime most likely were arrested for crimes related to mental illness or drug use. Not only has the number of people imprisoned increased between 500 and 600% over the last 30 years, but the length of sentences served has increased as well. If rehabilitation was utilized instead of imprisonment as a way to deal with drug-related crime, state governments could invest more money into improving educational systems. Remember when I mentioned that once people are exposed to a toxic prison environment, they're likely to become repeat offenders? Well, a consequence of that is that more than likely those people will be charged with a felony. Once an individual is labeled as a felon, they automatically become a second-class citizen, this making them subject to legal discrimination, denied access to housing, denied access to employment, and denied access to healthcare. Not only are nonviolent offenders impacted by increasing incarceration rates, it also impacts the daily lives of lawmakers, taxpayers, people living in poverty, and minorities. To reduce incarceration rates, it is the job of judges and health organizations to work together to find alternative ways of dealing with nonviolent offenders. This will reduce the demand for prisons to be built so that state and federal funds can go towards other institutions such as education. It is equally as important for law enforcement to recognize and reevaluate racial biases that lay within the system so that they can rebuild trust with citizens. Ultimately, if the effort is put forth to decrease incarceration rates and implement prison reform, it will greatly benefit society as a whole.